right, so let's segue into our topic. So we have Marvel coming out with this huge lineup. We have, WandaVision coming to an end. I don't know if you saw today's episode or not.
I did, yeah.
But yeah, that was, fantastic in its own right. It was a little bit of a, this is what hasn't happened towards this is how we're going to end it kind of thing. But anyway, you got Falcon and Winter Soldier coming up. You got the Black Widow film. We got Loki. We got the What If series. Every week within 2021, we will have Marvel content. And it's exciting, and especially with how WandaVision has come across and how well it was made and how awesome it was. And if you want to hear our thoughts on it, check out last week's episode because we talked a lot about it. But on the latter end, we have DC. And we do have the Snyder Cut coming soon, which is super exciting. I can't wait. But it just feels like this year's going to lack in the DC content. We have Suicide Squad coming out, and I've totally just given up on the CW shows. I finished last season for each show, but when Arrow ended, I think it's all fizzled out for me, and I finally checked out. But besides that, we need a vision for DC, whether it's TV, whether it's movies, whether it's anything. And that's what we want to talk about, because what do we need from DC? What do we want to see? Because Marvel's pushing hard, and I want DC to do the same thing. And Kev, what do you think DC should be doing right now, if anything?
Well, I find it, and at first when you said a vision, do you mean, at first I was like, does he mean like a vision-like character in the DC universe? Or like DC to have like a vision like with their eyes?
A vision with their eyes, because
that's what I think you mean.
We always complain about their lack of, or their too much vision.
It's interesting because I feel after DC Fandom back in August, right, of 2020?
Something like that. I think it was August.
I feel as if after that, and I may have gone on record saying, I was like, whoa, DC came out swinging, and I think they did a really solid job. And then it was Marvel was staying silent, but look at Marvel. They're like just hanging back, like, just wait till WandaVision comes out, and then everybody's going to be freaking talking about us again. And that's exactly what's happening. So, and that's simply because, and when I say this, I don't mean that DC will not have success with some of their properties coming out later this year, but Marvel's track record has shown. I mean, we don't need to get into that now. We've done it ad nauseum, I think, at this point. But they I'm sure they knew that they had a solid show in WandaVision, and that came out and it surprised a lot of people, and a lot of people loved it. And it just got people back into the Marvel spirit, and now they're super excited for all these Marvel properties to come out. I know that's what happened to me. They came out with a solid show, solid acting, solid writing, solid story, and now I'm just super excited for all the shows.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how could you not be? Because you're like, oh, wow. Even if you were someone like me who doubted it,
yeah,
you're like, I'm kind of putting my foot in my mouth now, and I'll eat my words. That's fine.
But that's the part, because we were talking about it, and we even said back in the past that all these shows that they're coming out with, that it would be too much. But the way they went about it and how well WandaVision was done, I'm like, okay, I want all of it. Just give it to me. Especially as long as they don't wrap you up in seasons, which WandaVision, I don't think they're doing in season 2, which is perfect. Do one season, just hit your marks within the MCU. Awesome. And, I'll eat my words too. I said I thought it would be too much, and now I want every show that they offered because of how good WandaVision was. And it's just a little frustrating with the DC side because, they had DC Fandom, which was epic. Dwayne killing it, with the Black Adam stuff and, the Batman stuff. But then, Wonder Woman 84 came out, and we know how that turned out, especially, again, last week's episode. Check it out.
There you go.
But it kind of that was the break. That was the, come on, DC. You do well, and then you just backtrack. It's like they take 2 steps forward and then 12 steps back. And it's just, you guys need to have someone like Kevin Feige, who is on the forefront in making sure that the content is fantastic. Because do your fans right. look what Marvel's doing. Marvel has nailed everything. Besides, in my case, Guardians Volume 2 and Ant-Man 2, everything else has been delivered on point and amazing. Then the DC side, there's a great film, a good film, crap film, great film, good film, crap film. It's just a cycle, you know.
Yeah.
I hope the Snyder Cut's fantastic. I'm excited for it. I think I'm gonna wake up early as hell when it comes out, just to watch through 4 hours, just to enjoy it and see how it is. You know, it might not be good, or maybe it's fantastic, and I really hope it is. But then we're gonna go into Suicide Squad, and hopefully it's good. You know, it's just like there's always doubt when you talk DC. There's always doubt.
It's understandable. They don't have the track record. You know, they've proven more often than not that they don't know how to execute a story. Their scripts are all over the place. So obviously the personnel that they have aren't cutting it, and that's just how it is.
Yeah.
You know, so where do I see it going from here? I think was your question, or
what would you like to see? Where do you think? Either or.
Oh, I mean, I would love to see some sort of success. I mean, you bring up such a good point with Wonder Woman 1984. I think being an overall disappointment, and from there, sure, we have the Snyder Cut, which we're very excited for. But you know, then what if that's not good? What if all the hype from this, and you watch it, and the majority of people, you know, including us, are just like, it really wasn't that great, you know? Like, sure, maybe it was better than, you know, what Joss Whedon, you know, that crap show that he put out, but you know, it really didn't live up to the hype. And then where do you go from there? Suicide Squad. Am I excited for it? Yeah, it looks like a bonkers, crazy ass movie. You know, it reminds me of, you know, these other wacky shows we're getting, like, you know, Doom Patrol and you know, The Boys and Umbrella Academy. These really out of the box kind of wacky superhero movies, and it's done by none other than James Gunn, who brought, you know, the misfits of Marvel, you know, to the big screen, and it was a huge success. So yeah, I'm definitely excited for it. But I don't know, man. It just it just baffles me. It still baffles me, you know, what characters DC has, and how the only one they're simply able to execute is Batman all the time. I mean, as a Batman fan, sure, I'm stoked, but you have incredible characters, and I just can't for the life of me figure out why they can't get the right personnel to execute these properties well, to have some sort of success. It just blows my mind. I want everybody to be successful. I don't wish ill will on any of these.
No.
I always want everybody to just do well and just create, you know, have great stories and create good films. Because I think if, you know, I think if everybody's successful, Marvel, DC, whatever, it helps the whole industry. But at the same time, I think Marvel can just do it on their own. They've proven that they don't need DC to be successful for them to be successful. It just really, I don't know, man. It just sucks. It really, really sucks.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, if you read DC Comics, the stories they have, the personalities within their characters that they have, and all these different versions that are amazing and fantastic, that if they just put it on the big screen in the right way, it would be extremely successful. Like, they have the content to put on the big screen, or even in TV shows, to deliver and make people interested. And that's the thing that kind of bothers me every time, because I've read, like, recently I've been going through Rebirth and, like, the order. I found, like, this website, I forget what it was, but it tells you what order to read all the Rebirth, you know, series in. And everything in Rebirth has been mostly like a 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10. And it's just like, why don't they take these stories? Why don't they take these characters that have never been on the big screen yet, or haven't been even on TV shows yet, and put them in the limelight, because with what you have on paper can be translated to the big screen and can make people interested in your comics, and interested in your memorabilia and your clothes and your products. It's just, they have it. They have it in front of them. They need to deliver. And I think what they need to do is, cast the right way, find the right writers, and get someone who can take the charge and, look at all this stuff and make sure it's on point, and have it through a whole year. Every week have new content to keep people interested. Like for Suicide Squad, James Gunn was probably the best thing to happen to this film. I could be wrong. It could be awful. I don't think it will be. If you're going to take the Suicide Squad, I think the best person for the job is James Gunn. And if it's good, I'm going to be super interested for the Peacemaker with John Cena, which to me, watched wrestling all my life. I was a big John Cena fan when he did Basic Thugonomics, when he was the champ Superman Cena. Did not like him as an actor. Very iffy. Very iffy. Not Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne Johnson's awesome. John Cena is an iffy guy when it comes to his acting. He's in a lot of commercials, if you notice that. He's in some movies here and there. He's in some TV shows. But to see him take a lead as the Peacemaker in his own series, James Gunn must have a lot of faith in him if he thinks Cena can carry a series by himself. And that's what intrigues me the most about Suicide Squad and about that spin-off that's going to happen.
Yeah, that whole thing, it does always fascinate me when it seems like DC likes to put the carriage before the horse.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing if something's successful, they're like, well, we're having a spin-off series, and we're like, we haven't even seen the friggin' movie yet.
Do we even like him yet? Like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, and you're right. I mean, obviously, Warner Brothers, James Gunn must have faith in John Cena's portrayal of this character.
Yeah.
And they must have faith in the movie, which is good. I mean, you want to see confidence in the filmmaker and the studio behind it, because if they have confidence, it at least gives the audience some sort of confidence going into it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just baffling to me. I mean, I think it just comes down to, like you said, I mean, obviously the stories are there. And the same with Marvel. Decades upon decades upon decades of stories, great stories that are there for your taking and for you to borrow and maybe tweak yourself. But it just comes down to talent.
Yeah.
Obviously, DC, Warner Brothers, they're not. They think they're fun, and here's the thing. They're probably finding very talented writers, but the writers that they're finding just don't know how to execute a proper story for a superhero film.
Correct.
Somehow Marvel just has the formula. They just know what they're doing. DC just can't crack that code yet. They can't figure it out.
But they're on the cusp, because if you think, in my eyes, the best thing that DC could do, you bring back Swamp Thing. That series was fantastic. You get the budget for it, and you make the budget for it. You have, HBO Max. They have plenty of money, HBO, and Warner Brothers and them, to make that a season 2, because it was thrilling, it was fun, it was different, it was gory, the story was amazing, and what they, the cliffhanger they left you with coming up for season 2 kept you so interested. Even Titans and Doom Patrol, all those stuff that they had on the DC universe, that formula there is what they need to continue with. But they don't put that in the rest of their TV shows or their movies. Because if you look at the CW and you look at the DC Universe shows, they are completely different. Like CW, obviously, because they need the drama and, it's kind of babyish, watered down type thing. But when you let these characters have no boundaries and let them be themselves, it works. And that's what I think DC needs to do. And I know this would hurt them, but if they went mostly rated R or like push the boundaries on a teen rating, I think that would benefit them more, because the darker stuff, in my opinion, is way better for them.
I think it worked better. I think if they were gonna, they're just all over the place, and they're still all over the place because it's fascinating to me. I feel like with DC, more so than Marvel, you definitely hear more rumors all the time of,
yes,
there's a Justice League Dark, Well, then there's not, but then there might be. And then now there's going to be a Blue Beetle series, and no one even knows who, like, the majority of people don't even know who the hell Blue Beetle is.
It's true.
And then now they're going to reboot Superman, and it's like, what are you guys doing? There's no plan. It's just
wait, Kev,
all over the place.
And the best example of this, we've been saying this for literally years. Ezra Miller's Flash. Now, the movie was on. It was off. It was on. It was off. It's Flashpoint. It's not Flashpoint. It's Flashpoint. But it's not Flashpoint, but you got two different Batmans and you just got a Supergirl in there. So it's not Flashpoint, but you're doing that?
I don't even... That whole movie has... First off, I'm having a hard time getting behind it because I have just issues with Ezra Miller. So, to be honest with you, I'm not really excited for that movie. Maybe after seeing Snyder Cut, might change my mind, but I'm not a fan of Ezra Miller as Barry Allen. To me, he's not Barry Allen. He doesn't really portray the character of Barry Allen. And maybe that's because in Joss Whedon's Justice League, he was this goofy, timid teenager. I don't know what to do. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, he wasn't make any sense. Well all in Justice League. He wasn't. It wasn't good. And so maybe it wasn't Ezra for that, but it was the writing for him was not good.
Exactly. So maybe my whole tune will change after Snyder Cut. But this whole Flash movie thing, I don't know. And again, like, I have my doubts, and then it could come out and could see it and just be blown away by how incredible it is. But the whole we just cast a Supergirl, and guess what? Michael Keaton's coming back, and it's like you're just shoving all this stuff in there, and to me, it almost seemed like it was fan service. And I'm like, it's a Flash movie, but is it because maybe not a lot of people care about Ezra Miller as the Flash? And where are we going from here? You're like, the Snyder Cut, the Snyderverse is done, but Ezra Miller's still the Flash, and he's still going to have movies, and apparently Jason Momoa's still going to do Aquaman thing. And are they even going to hint to this? It's so all over the place. It makes you freaking dizzy. And I guess it's like my OCD coming out where I'm just like, I wish you guys would get organized and figure this shit out. Because it just confuses the fan base. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of want to get your opinion on this whole recent article that we just saw about a Superman reboot with J.J. Abrams behind the wheel. What do you think about that?
If it's done right, like we spoke before this, and how you brought up with J.J. Abrams and how he didn't do service to the Star Wars movies that he was behind. And if he's a fan of Superman and he knows stories that he can tell, from the comics, or if he has his own that are good, like, I'm fine with it. But
yeah,
I feel like with DC, they have the Batman coming out, and they're going to have the Gotham City PD rolling off of that. I feel like you start fresh. You start from there, and you see how that does, and you start to build, and you build, and you build. Because it's like you said, it's all over the place. And who knows, half of it's the old Snyderverse movies, some of it's New Age, who knows what the hell's going on. That's probably why the Flash movie that's not Flashpoint will probably be Flashpoint, to kind of soak everything together, because it's confusing. And with the DC universe, right? The EU, whatever, you already had Flashpoint in the CW, right? That showed that everything's connected. So, you can't have another Flashpoint in the movies, right? Because you already just showed it's connected. So now, not only did one Barry Allen fuck up the timeline, now you got a second one doing the same thing. It's just, even with this Flash movie, it still makes everything confusing. Because you decided to, it was fun, the whole Crisis on Infinite Earths thing. It was fun to show all the different Earths and the movies and the TV shows that were kind of in the multiverse. But now, with your movies, it just makes it confusing. Because now you don't know what's connected, what's not, with all these different movies now coming out. It's just...
I know.
And then with the Snyderverse, if it's great and people love it, you just end it there. So you don't even know what's going to happen in the future, and people are going to want that. They already, Warner Brothers said they're not going forward with the sequel. And why would you at that point? It's just, it's just a nod to Snyder to finish his cut.
Yeah.
So if it's well received and people want more, do you like switch back and say, okay, let's keep rolling with these characters in these other movies and make it more confusing? It's just they need a hard reset, and they need to come up with a plan and have movies and TV shows that they can get behind, have it laid out, and let people enjoy it and just come along for the ride and just pick people up more and more. And I think you have that with Titans, with Doom Patrol. And like I said, Swamp Thing, I think that would be a huge hit if they brought back for a season 2.
I don't even know. I think a hard reset is probably the best thing. I mean, me personally, I think if you are going to have a Flashpoint movie to correct your mistakes, to me, I think that's, I just think it's you're copping out. Yes. I don't know. Like, so you're going to force, a very popular comic book arc, and use that, that title as Flashpoint that many people know of. And you're going to use it to like correct all the wrongs that you've done, I think is just ridiculous. Yeah. So to me, like, and that's the thing, man, it kind of sucks. Like, I'm not even excited for that movie. There's nothing about it right now. And you can throw in as many as you want. Like, we're bringing Kevin Conroy in too from the animated series. Like, at this point, I'm just like,
the CW did that too. The CW brought Kevin Conroy in to be the evil Batman of Earth 99. Like,
yeah, it's just give me a break. I mean, I don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. This reboot of Superman has me a little baffled. J.J. Abrams behind the project. I don't know how I feel about that. All I can tell you, there's going to be a lot of lens flares. The dude likes using lens. I don't know if you've ever seen his Star Trek movie. Every other scene has like a lens flare.
Dude, directors have their forte, man. Like me, when I do my camera stuff, I'm always a rack focus guy. I like getting those detailed shots, focusing in. Like, people have their forte,
I know. I'm just kind of
you can't. But at the same time, you can't, like, as like a professional director who's pushing out movies, you can't like have a thing for all your movies, because then people pick up on it. It's like, all right, here comes the lens flare again.
I don't know. I don't know. Like you said, hey, if there's a good story, and it's done well and it's a good movie, then it's a good movie. I'm not gonna wish for the worst on it. It sounds like they are gonna, according to this article it was from comicbook.com, they had said that they were gonna introduce a different story of Superman, something that we haven't seen before. I know there was rumors months ago, maybe it was even last year, about Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, it was last year.
And introduce a black Superman, which I think would be cool. And in the comics, I think there was a black Superman at one point. I don't. Yeah. So that's cool. I mean, I'm all for it if it's a good story. I mean, I don't care if Superman is orange, green, black, white. It doesn't matter to me as long as the story's good. I love Henry Cavill as Superman and as the Clark Kent Kal-El Superman. And I was really pushing for him. Now, it's not confirmed that he's not coming back, but I really wanted him to get one more movie. And I wanted it to be the Superman that we know and love. And I feel like the Superman that we were seeing at the end of the not so great Justice League movie, I felt, maybe now he's going to get his chance. He's going to get his solo Superman film, a sequel to Man of Steel. We're finally going to have this brighter Superman, this symbol of hope. And now I don't know if that's going to happen. So yeah. I just wanted that for him, and I wanted it selfishly as a fan, but I don't know if that's going to happen. It just, I don't know. Another thing is I just really hope that they leave Matt Reeves' Batman in its solo form. I really don't. I don't know what their plan is for that. I don't think you need to introduce other superheroes in his movie. I kind of just want his own standalone just Just tell
Yeah.
great Batman stories and leave it Batman. Don't introduce anything else.
So would
But I
you?
don't know what
But
they would
would
do.
you like it if they brought in within the Batman, like a Joker and a Poison Ivy and a Nightwing, just keep it Batman family, or do you just want it just Batman himself and leave it at that?
It's tough. I mean, I always thought a Bat family story would be interesting, but the only reason I don't know if they're going to go that route is because of how young Robert Pattinson is, and if Matt Reeves is only doing a trilogy from what we hear, I don't think there's enough time to introduce a Nightwing and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're like you're going to completely change that whole story and him and Nightwing are the same age or something like that, which I don't think they'll do. And I don't know. I mean, I think I wouldn't mind it. I always loved the Jason Todd transitioning into Red Hood and the
Yes.
dynamic between him and Bruce. I always thought that would be a really interesting story, and would love to see a live action film of that. But in the meantime, check out Under the Red Hood because that's a fantastic, my favorite DC animated movie. And that story or that movie alone is fantastic. So check that out if we never get a live action. But I don't know. I'm okay with it just staying Batman. I know a lot of people are like introduce Robin, and I'm like, do you really mean that?
Yeah.
Do you really mean that? Like, do you really want Robin there? I mean, listen, I have nothing against the character of Robin. I would love to see a Robin portrayed well. I think it would be difficult in live action.
Yes, I agree.
I do. I just think the dynamic and just like being honest about, if you're going to have a younger boy with, I don't know, just the whole, it may come off kind of silly,
Yeah.
live
That's true.
action.
But even in the comics and in the animated, it was silly. This kid in these bright colors,
Yeah.
making these stupid little jokes and like just being in awe, being around Batman all the time. It was silly. But then you have the Titans version of you have both Jason Todd and Dick Grayson, and
Yeah.
they weathered the storm with Batman. It's the darker of the versions of Robin, and I think if you would go that route, I think it would work. As long as the right people were there, I think you can get a
Yeah.
Robin that actually fits that role. That you can get all like Jason Todd would be perfect. And even Dick Grayson with his family dying and stuff. It's just these dark stories that made them go towards Batman and what Batman brought them in. It's just that when we've seen them in the animated and in comics, it was always this dark story of how they were brought in, but then it was they were loving life, joking around all day, and the problems that weighed on them never existed. It seems.
Yeah. I yeah, I don't know. I don't think you need to introduce, in my opinion, I don't think you need to introduce a Robin in this trilogy. I think from what we understand, Matt Reeves is really going to dive into like the psyche of Bruce,
Yeah.
and have a story arc really focusing on um, Bruce's more like inside of Bruce's mind,
Yeah.
and how he is uh, dealing with the world around him and his persona of Batman and why Batman and the choices that he makes. I don't see a Robin ending up
Yeah.
in this unless you like if it ends up being a trilogy and you end the trilogy with him attending the Flying Graysons at a circus. But I don't to me that would just be like just to do it. It wouldn't make
Yeah.
any sense. And I don't think Matt Reeves is that kind of guy.
No, I don't think we. I honestly don't think we'll see a Robin in any of this trilogy.
No, I don't think we'll see that. I don't think we'll see like a Batgirl or anything like that. I mean, it could be wrong, but I think he's really just going to focus on the character of Batman and Bruce Wayne. So,
but see, that's what I think will be a hit for DC because I think honestly, I think Matt Reeves the Batman is going to be fantastic. The footage we've seen and just the story behind it, I think it sets itself apart from every other Batman and other superhero films that we've seen. And the same thing with Joker when that came out. I think you need these stories that set themselves apart from what we've seen already.
Yeah.
And I think if DC focused more on that, on these individual stories that will set themselves apart, that are made well, I think they could get something going. And then at that point, if you want to mesh them together, I guess you could if you wanted to. I wouldn't say like Matt Reeves' Batman and then the Joker we got. You can't mesh those obviously, but within that Joker, you could bring in other one-off villain stories within Gotham and tell
Yeah.
those stories so people understand their background and maybe make a Batman there, your own Batman story, and then come head to head with these characters. There's plenty of potential, and it's not seen.
It's interesting you say that because I thought after the success of Aquaman and the success of Joker, then all of a sudden DC came out and said, well, we're not going to worry about shared universes. We're going to focus on individual films and making them good. And maybe that's what they're going to do. I don't know. What was I reading the other day where another, you have like Shazam 2 coming out.
Yeah.
And apparently that's still within the continuity of the Snyderverse. And then Black Adam is associated with Shazam. So essentially Black Adam is associated with the Snyderverse too. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. I hear what you're saying though. And I think at the end of the day that may be the way for DC to go. And I was kind of excited for that with the success of Joker and the way the Batman looks right now. I think if you were to get, a director to really take these iconic characters and just go with their vision and not worry about like, if Batman does this here, well, that's going to impact the way Aquaman does this in his film.
Yeah.
And not worry about that and just focus on telling your story, your individual story. I thought would be really cool for DC. It'd be something different. We don't need a shared universe. Just tell individual stories, and just tell them well. And for some reason, they're having such a hard time doing that. And I don't know, man. I want them to get out of this hole.
Yeah.
And it seems like once they do, they slip and they fall back down it. So
I just, after seeing Joker, because Joker to me was phenomenal. Everything about it. It would be awesome because within the, the Batman's rogue gallery, you have so many iconic characters. And the thing with them is they're all normal people they don't have superpowers. Most of these villains, we see have these powers and abilities that other, superpowered beings, these heroes that we know and love, have to combat with. But if you, shed all that and you just go to the roots and see like, how Penguin came about, how, Poison Ivy came about, how Riddler came about. I think, honestly, in my opinion, with Joker, that film, I think they're onto something. And if you went the villain route and showed how these characters became how they became and like, their persona they built to, I think that would be fantastic. And yeah, it wouldn't be the run-of-the-mill superhero stuff, and yeah, it would be darker and grittier, but I think you can build an audience behind that.
I mean, it's shown, and I think, with the success of Joker, and as much as I enjoyed that movie, a lot of people were saying, well, if you removed the Joker, the Joker facade, and you just had a story about a guy who, was very beaten down by society and just cut and snapped, it could be about anybody. But you put the Joker face on there, and then all of a sudden it's a recognizable, character, and people gravitated towards that because it was familiar. I mean, a lot, to me, I think Batman has the most fascinating rogues gallery, and sure, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I would be interested in watching an origin story of any other villain. I say that, but I don't know. Maybe I am. I mean, a lot of Batman's villains, like you said, like, I mean, there are some that have supernatural-ish abilities, but obviously if you wouldn't go that route and you went the route of like a Penguin or a Riddler or something like that, it would just be this male who, you know, after time, you know, is beaten down by something or another, whatever that could be, and ends up becoming a crime lord or you know, a mastermind, and all this kind of stuff. And like, if you think about it, like, those movies could be about, you could call them anything, but then, you know, like what they did with Joker, you throw Riddler or Penguin on there, and maybe it would be successful, maybe it wouldn't be. I don't know. That's really tough to say. I mean, I think that with Matt Reeves' film, I think we're going to see an origin to Penguin and an origin to
Yes.
Riddler that we've never seen before.
Which I'm so pumped for. It
So,
looks so good.
so yeah, I mean, we might not get an individual film, but I think he's going to really show us the rise to the villains that we know them
Yeah,
as,
especially with
which
the Riddler.
is,
Dude,
yeah,
that trailer, man. Goosebumps every time I watch it.
I still watch that trailer.
Yeah. It can't
still
come
watch
out
it.
soon enough. Like, it literally can't come out soon enough.
I 100% agree, and it's funny how this turned into like the Batman conversation, but ultimately, obviously that's what I'm most excited for. I think as far as the DC properties go, I don't know if you feel the same. I know you're super pumped for Black Adam, as a Dwayne the Rock Johnson fan. But to me, this movie looks like something really special. So
I agree,
and I hope it's great.
I think it will be. I think it has all the quality, especially with the trailer, man. That trailer at the end of DC Fandom was out of this world, and just seeing that Riddler, it was a different take, and I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to dive deeper in that. It's just
same.
That's the way DC really needs to go, is, you know, stories like that. And, you know, Matt Reeves knows how to tell his stories, and you just need people like that. Like James Gunn, no doubt. I think he'll most likely have a great story behind it. They need to bring in directors that know how to deliver, and I think that's what they really need.
I think that, to me, and I know, listen, I know, like, some people might think, well, Kev, like, you're a Batman fan, blah blah blah. But to be honest with you, like, trying to step out of, like, being, you know, a huge Batman fan, to me, I think if you look at the DC characters, I think Batman has the most interesting story.
Yes.
And there's a lot that you could do with it. I mean, there's just so many layers to a Batman story. Batman as an individual character, there's layers to his villains. They're not just disposable villains. There's layers to Alfred. There's layers to Jim Gordon. You know, there's so many characters, and there's so many aspects to each one of them. That's what I think is why Batman is. There's so much you can do with his story, but at the same time, see, that's where DC needs to figure out, like, a character like Superman, and where I thought Zack Snyder was going in a good direction was, you were making Superman feel or look vulnerable. I think for a lot of people, you looked at this alien being who could not be destroyed. So how could we as an audience ever relate to something like that? You can't. But he found a way to make him. I know a lot of people were like, well, it was dark and depressing and the colors were muted and it was a sad Superman. But I think he was trying to do it in a way where the audience, like, could almost relate to him on a human level. And I think DC, you could do that with, you just have to find the right team. And for some reason, they're having a difficult time, I think, with everyone else besides Batman. But I think Batman, there's so much detail there that for a director and a writer, there's just so much to play with.
There is.
You know what I mean? There's so much you can do. And that's why I think those films are always so much more dynamic. But we need someone to be able to do that with a Wonder Woman, a Flash, a Green Lantern. And maybe one day that'll happen.
I have one last question for you, because it's curious in my mind. After Wonder Woman 84, do you think a third Wonder Woman film is a good idea or a bad idea? Because, you know, we're going along the lines of, you know, it's still Snyderverse. And do you leave that behind? Do you let that end with the Justice League cut he's doing? Or do you keep going with the stuff that's, you know, spawned off of what he's created?
I think, personally, unfortunately, I think after Wonder Woman 1984, that's it for Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I think the last time we see her, honestly is this Snyder cut.
Yeah.
It's a shame. But I just don't think 1984 hit people like they probably wanted it to, or as much as the first one did, an impact that the first one made. And I don't see any future Wonder Woman movies with Gal Gadot or Patty Jenkins.
Yeah.
Within that Wonder Woman realm of film. I think that I think Wonder Woman's going to be. You won't see Wonder Woman for a while. I don't even think she'll make a guest appearance in anything.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's a shame. It really is. I just think that we won't see Wonder Woman for a few years until they decide what they want to do. But it sucks. It sucks that it ended that way.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm wrong, dude. Maybe I'm completely wrong, and they make an announcement that the third Wonder Woman film is coming out with in the next 4 years or 5 years or something, and Gal Gadot is still Wonder Woman. But I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
Nah. So sorry to end on a negative note. But go watch the Batman trailer. That'll look.
Yeah, seriously, that'll make you all sorts of pumped for DC stuff. Thank you all for watching. I was gonna bring up actually something else, but we'll wrap it up here. Thank you for watching, Kev. It's an honor. It's a privilege. It's always tough when we rant and rave about DC and how frustrating it is. At least once a year we have to do it because it never fails.
No. When will they learn? When will they learn?
When do you think there'll be a time where we talk about DC and we're just super stoked and everything's rolling and we're all thrilled and everything they push out is just brilliance?
It's tough to say, man. It's really tough to say. I mean, I think I'll tell you what. If this Snyder cut is a success and the buzz after it's released is majority of it's positive, because you're gonna have the people that were like, that's just fucking bullshit. I hate it. Like they'll hate it even before they turned it on HBO Max. I don't know why I sounded like Bane there all of a sudden. Like,
because Bane's he's the bearer of bad news.
Yeah, this movie sucks. But I think if that's successful, I think you'll start. I think you'll, the DC fan base will kind of elevate a little bit, and then people will. I mean, maybe a lot of people are looking forward to Suicide Squad. I don't even know how I feel about it. I mean, I don't know
what to feel.
I don't know. Yeah,
I just don't know what to feel. I'm excited that James Gunn's doing it. They have a pretty damn good cast.
They do.
And
they do. That's for sure.
The only thing that kind of throws me off is how many characters they have in it. But again, if anyone were to do that well, it would be James Gunn.
I agree. So with that being said, I think if Snyder Cut, I don't want to say like Snyder Cut's the end all be all. Like if Snyder Cut ends up being like a hot, bag of dog shit, that all of a sudden, everybody's just gonna go, I don't care about anything coming out anymore, DC related. I definitely think the success of it would definitely benefit and be helpful, just for people to get excited about DC again. But I don't know, man. It's really tough to say with them. I can't even give you like an exact like time frame. Like, within the next 4 years, I think we'll probably, I just think that if they just gotta get the right people and
which is you. They need to bring you on board.
You know what? I would absolutely love it. I don't know if I'm in the room with them and I'm pitching ideas, whether it would be in my own head. I feel like I know what I'm talking about. I feel like I know what's a good idea and what's not. Who freaking knows?
There's gonna be Kevin Feige and Kevin Barrett going head to head for Marvel and DC. Yeah, Kevin versus Kevin.
the Kevins, the battle of the Kevins. I don't know if I have the mind of Mr. Feige over there, but I would certainly do the best that I can. It's frustrating. I mean, we're passionate about this stuff. I mean, we love this stuff. We want to see it successful. We love these characters, and it's just time and time again, we're just always like, we're on like a roller coaster ride, and I don't even like roller coasters. So
no, I do.
So well, there you go. No, not for me. But I don't know. Fingers crossed, dude. I wish them the best, and I hope let's hope that freaking next month already, the Snyder Cut. My God,
less than a month.
Less than a month. Holy shit.
It's coming close, dude. Remember it's supposed to be May. Now it's March. They're like, oh no, we're done. It's March. And I'm like, yes.
I knew it was May originally. I knew it.
It's supposed to be May. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, shit. I mean, if they're like, it's done, it's done. Whatever. Let's just fingers crossed that it's good, man.
And you'll hear us talk about it very soon on the podcast.
Yeah, we'll have I'm sure, a very lengthy discussion.
Yes. I mean, it's 4 hours of content, so.
Yeah. There'll be a lot to talk about. So.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, comment, the keyboard Kev thing you got going on. Subscribe, all that fun stuff. And as always, thank you for watching. Kev,
thank you.
It's an honor.
Privilege. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.